Hello everyone! Welcome to the assets drawing process. In this step, I will teach you on how to turn your tidy sketch into usable animation assets. To give you the rough picture of what we are gonna do in this step, let me first give you example from more simple image. Imagine this is your sketch, not finished yet. We just want to make sketch with color. And I want to turn it into animation assets. So my plan here, I just want to sketch some cat, an orange cat. The face. I think adding necklace will be cute too. Okay, let me add the white tip on the tails. Okay, done. Now, if it's just normal illustration process, what we usually do after sketching are to trace it and follow the shape on it. You know, line arting as usual. So lowering down the sketch opacity and next new layer for the line art. Probably something like this. Okay, this is how we are line arting on like static illustration, right? But in our case, we will not do it like this because we want to do the illustration process while making it into assets on the same time. And to do that, instead of doing the line art in the usual way, we will create the line art along with the bleeding for those parts. If you don't know what is bleeding, bleed in design is when elements extend beyond the final or actual trim size. It works as safety margin to avoid gap from appearing around the edge of the element. This is what happens if you prepare it without bleed. Okay, the tails, the cutting part will be only look like this. And then when you later animate the tails, you can see there is an empty gap from the base of tails and from the body. The empty gap resulted by the lack of bleed, and you want to avoid that. So what are we gonna do are to prepare the line art while it's already extended to fill the gap for safety measure. Now we are gonna draw the line art on each body part on different layer. Make sure to make it on different layer like this. The layer for the ears and the head is separated. We want to do that. And for the body too, on different layer. I'm just gonna put it with the hand because I'm not planning to animate the hand. In the case if the image is not overlapping with each other, you can just put it on the same layer, like the ear and the necklace. Now, after done with the line art, what we are gonna do, let me just put the sketch on here so I can use it as my color palette. Now, I'm gonna foldering each layer and name it accordingly. Like the face, I'm gonna put it on the folder name face. The head, I'm gonna put it on the folder name head. Do it for all the rest of layer. When it's done, foldering it, we will add new layer below each line art for base color. Each artist usually have different style in filling inside the line art. You can just draw it manually or use technique like mine. Make sure you put the base color on the correct folder. Like the base color for the body need to be put inside the body folder. Now after all of it are prepared, we will start to coloring it one by one. Basically just render the color. I'm just gonna pick the color scheme for my sketch. Put some shading. So you are rendering the assets in each base color folder layer, I mean. I will also color the line art. Ta-da! What you just see are how we do the illustration and asset separation on the same time. The results are now ready to use assets. Okay, we are gonna move it to make sure all the bleed are prepared. Let's check it again. Right now, even though we deform the tail, there is no more white gap appearing like before, since we provide the bleed already. But here's another question. What if we want to animate old illustration or other people works when the bleed are not provided, since the illustration itself already finished? In this case, you can do our second method, which are void filling. As it said, void filling are an act to fill the empty space. So rather than provide the bleed since the beginning, we will do it when the elements are done instead. We back to our cat illustration before. Let me foldering it first. All the asset as cat1 so we can compare it with the second technique. Okay, I'm gonna duplicate and merge it. So it's just gonna be one PNG image, which we will name as cat2. Now, in the case like this, we will first cut all the elements we want to be the assets, like the ear, the tail. You can decide to use cut or copy, depends on the location. For the case like the face, I prefer copying it because I don't want to leave a hole. In case of selecting the details, you can try to do it without leaving an excess. Or you can leave it and erase manually later, like what I will do. Now we are gonna repair the line art a little bit. And the next step we are gonna do is just to retouch it and fill the empty gap. The egg name is void filling, which have similar function with bleeding, but we are doing it after the illustration finish instead. Since the face are copied, not cut. There will be overlapping part. The same will happen with the necklace. And we need to cover it. Basically, just redrawing on the top of it to make the overlapping part disappear. Oh my god, I forget the head. I need to separate it too. Fill the void on the body. And we will do this for every assets we want to provide. Okay, forget to separate the pendant. Don't forget to erase the excess. I myself, in my preference, not really fancy this method. Since if you not erase it cleanly, the excess will be left there, which really butter the results. As you can see, when I move the face, the excess show up because I didn't erase it properly. Let me fix it a bit. It's better. Not really clean. I'm not gonna do it right now because it will take too much time. I think you got the point already too. So I will just skip the refining process. If you want to use this technique, make sure to make it really clean. Don't left the excess. Okay, I'm not gonna renaming each layer because it's just an example. I'm just instead foldering it and name it cat 2. And now we are done. Two different methods, overall same results. For this class, I will use the first method, which we will provide the bleed since the beginning. But sometimes I will also mix it with the second method, depends on which one are more efficient. Feel free to try and find out which method you like better. Hopefully, this introduction are clear enough to show you what we will run through this section. Now, let's try to implement this method to more complex image, like anime character. Remember the draft we make on previous video? Here's the tidy sketch version, which, as I mentioned already, we will not include the making process because it is just purely illustration. But I will still give you some tips and tricks to make a proper sketch. Here's my sketch files. I really don't know why the colors are really off right now. The screen recording, I mean. Because probably I do screen recording on my tab. But hopefully when I move the files to laptop, the screen recording results will be more similar to my original files. As you can see here, I already merged all my layers files and only left the important one, like the chain, the glasses and the halo, the hand, the body, and the background. My original sketch files actually have a lot of layer, like the line art and the color are actually separated. but I just merged it because we didn't need to see it separately. I only want to leave the important one that we will use and we need to see. Also, I know some artists do sketching in one layer only. So even though you didn't separate the sketch into several parts like mine, it's completely fine, as long as you can understand it. Now let me make new layers. So you can see when I zoom it up, the results pretty much are still unclean. Like the line arts are still messy, and the colors are still not fully rendered. But it is completely fine, since this is already enough to be a solid base to be traced into a proper version. That is the main purpose of the sketch, is to serve as a guide for our final line art and color. It is okay if your sketch is rougher than this, as long as it meets a few key criteria. First, the overall shape must be set. The general appearance should already be decided. Let me turn down the opacity and use the blank layers. When you do the line art, you don't have to follow every stroke of the sketch exactly the same. I mean, some artists end up ignore the sketch anyway. But at least the essential features, like the hairstyle model, should be remain the same. If you suddenly want a different style, like after finishing the sketch for our cat, instead of using it as a fixed base, you feel like switching it into different type of cat, probably long fork type of cats. Then it is better to redo the base sketch. Unless you can do the line art without needing any sketch as your guide. It feels possible right now since the images are simple. But in case of detailed illustration like anime character, suddenly make a drastic change in hairstyle will be confusing in line arting process. We end up need to rethink the details since the new elements is not prepared on our sketch. So finalized base will make our process less complicated. The second one is color palette must be finalized. You don't need to add the shading or fully rendering it, but you should be at least sure about your best colors or color choices. Like you're already sure the color of the hair is the combination of black and blue, or the glasses are fixed to be red, the eye color are fixed to be red too, the outfits are fixed to be black, and a lot of details on the clothes are also fixed to be blue. So why we need to do this on the sketch steps? Okay, back to our cats. This is the assets we already make previously, okay? The cat one. Imagine you have already separated all the parts into tiny individual pieces, only to decide later that, okay, I didn't want it to be orange. I want it to be, probably pink. That will be mean recoloring all those assets one by one. It feels not a big problem right now because as I said, it's only like how much like 4 assets you need to recolor. But imagine if it's the more complicated assets like hair. That means you need to recolor every strands of the hair. It is a complete nightmare. And the last one is provide bleed for finalized preview. Not only you need to prepare bleed for each assets, you also need to provide bleed for the overall image. Here's the example. Even though my plan for the preview are around this area, I will still draw the character on this much. Because who knows if I end up want to resize the image or reposition it, I will make it as safety measures. In my case, I want the results to be about 1000 and 1000 pixel size, but overall size of canvas, the real canvas size are bigger than that, which is 1500 and 1500 pixel, 300 dpi. Okay, so I need to make sure the canvas is enough to include the overall image bleed. Okay, I know some of you will say that about this size of canvas is too small, but remember, our final results will have a ton of layers, and it will be imported to After Effects to be animated one by one. So make it on small canvas first, try it on your device, and if you think your device are strong enough, feel free to make the size bigger on your next project. My project usually about this size, more or less, 1500 pixel max, and only that size already make my After Effects files lagging near the end. So better safe than sorry. The amount of bleed you want to prepare for the canvas is up to you. Just make sure it's safe enough for certain movement, but still not waste your time for uncertain assets. I believe a lot of you still confused at how exactly we decide which parts to be separated. You already know that more parts mean more detail. But how much exactly? Did the nostrils also need to be separated? How about the shadow below the lips? Is it also need to be separated from the bottom lip? Or just merge it? How we know which option are the best? The answer is, there is no definitive method on asset separation. There is nothing such as absolute way. It is really depends on what you want the animation turns out to be, and the capability of your device, of course. Here, let me show you how asset separation is commonly done. I intentionally use different art style than the one I used to be, so you can see various example from different art style. Okay, let me hide the body since we want to focus on the head first. I forget to name this. Wait, let me go. Okay, I will hide the hairband first because that's just an extra. For the head, the most standard separation are the bangs, the side hair, if any. For the face, you can see there is a lot of detail separated, but we will discuss about it later because we want to focus on the overall head first. The head, the ear, and then the back hair. Okay, so that is the arrangement. Let me back it first. I will give the file data to you later, so no worry. Okay, this is how the head normally separated. In the case of hair, there is a ton of various way in slicing the parts. Depends on your animation, the number of parts will increase a lot. For the example, you can see on my old works in here, when I animate my character here, the hair movement is not too much. There is no something like hair wiggle. So since my hair movement didn't need to be that detailed, I didn't need to separate that much parts of the hair. I only separate is as the bang, the base, and back hair. Here's the example of animation that need more detailed separation on the hair. Like you can see, on this animation, I want him to have more like flowy hair, like it's blown by wind. So I end up separate it into more detailed parts. Let me show you the PSD files. The hair separate to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It includes several small parts. And then 6. So in the case if you want to do it on more detail, let me do a blank layer first. So for the bangs itself, you can try to separate it into more smaller pieces, like probably this, and then this. Okay, let me use different color. So you can try to separate it into 3 different parts. The number 1 is supposed to be on the front, and number 2 and number 3 will be behind number 1. So the arrangement will be 1 and 2 and 3. The layer arrangement, I mean. Another example for additional hair, you can also add something like this if you want to. Like some extra hair layer for more variety probably. Adding an extra layer above the head will help you to gain more dimension on your drawing. Probably you also want to add something like this. It's also better to separate it, so later you can like play it like this on the animation. So really, up to you. Here are some tips for you. If something attached tightly to each other and have no individual movement, then you don't need to separate it, just merge it. If you want to add some texture, like a strip like this, then just merge it with the front color. Another example is like for the neck, probably you want to add choker on it. Just an example, okay? So choker is usually attached tightly to the neck, right? It's not like they will like dangling when the character move. So I usually just merge it with the neck. So it will be one part neck. But in the case if you want indeed animate it, just say you want at some point on your animation, the choker will change color. So that means we will play with the hue and saturation, right? We can animate color on After Effects too. In the case of like this, you need to separate it, because if you merge it with the neck, and then you want to play with the color, then it will change the color of the neck too, which we didn't want it to happen. Also, if you want to play with the reflection of the choker, okay, let me rename it first. Just say I want to put reflection on the choker, okay? So something like something like this. And then I want the light to move from left to right, but I only want it to happen inside the choker. I don't want it to like affecting the neck and the other parts. That's mean I need to clipping mask it to the choker, right? Like this. And you can do it on After Effects too. So if you want to do animation like this, then it is obvious you need to separate the choker from the neck. Don't merge it. If you want to like make the choker have something like pendant, it's just an example, okay? Then usually pendant is dangling, right? Like this. So it is obvious you need to separate that part too. Now, the other details you need to pay attention are the assortment or the layering order. Generally, it's pretty obvious. Like if you want the bangs in front of the face, of course you need to put the bangs layer in front of the head layer, right? Because if you put it on below the head layers, it will be look like this. For the layering order, generally it's pretty obvious. But there is some special case like so here's the shape of the neck, okay? And for the color, there is parts that it is in front of the neck, but also there is some parts that it is behind the neck. Then in this case, you need to separate the color on the shape like this. One in the front and one on the back. Okay, let me zoom it out. It will be like this. And the front color will be like this. Like if you try to adjust the position, it looks like it one layer, but it is actually two separated layer because we want some parts in front of the neck and some parts is behind the neck. Another example that oftenly need to use this technique are the sleeves. Let me draw a hand just for example. And then the arm, and then the cloth, and then the shape for the back sleeve. I will draw the assets. The first part is the front cloth, and then below the layer will be the hand. And below the hand layer will be the back parts of the sleeve. Let me color it for more clear results. Just a rough one. So the results will be divided into three parts. The front sleeves, the hand, and then the back sleeves. With this kind of separation, it will be possible to you to animate the hand without messing up with the sleeves. Probably you will animate the hand like this. It will be looks like it's inside the sleeves because you separate it correctly. So now let's check our other layers that I haven't shown you. For the body part, it will be separated into front color, the clothes, the neck, left arm, right arm, body, and then the back color. For the face, let me hide the bangs first and the side hair. You can see it will be separated into eyebrow, upper eyelash, bottom eyelash, eyelid, nose, mouth, eyeball, and sclera, the white part of the eyes. Okay, for the mouth, this is the most simple one because if we didn't plan it to open and close, so if you didn't include that on your animation, you only need to draw it as like lips. No need to draw the teeth or the tongue. Now, the other tips that I can give you is you need to imagine what your illustration will look like when it's animated. Like for the most simple case is blinking. What you imagine the eyes will look like when it's blinking. Let me hide the eyeball, the sclera, and the bottom eyelash. When the eyelash go down, did you want the eyelid to following it or not? For me, if you end up making the eyelid following the eyelash, then it's better to just merge both the eyelid and the upper eyelash layer like this, because the movement will always be the same. So you can also decrease the number of layers. But in the case if you want it to animate separately like this, if you want the eyelid to stay there when the eyelash moving, then better just separate it. Another parts of the eyes that artists usually draw are the reflection. So what you want reflection look like when the eyeball is moving? Did you want the reflection to stay on the position when the eyeball moving? If it's that case, then you don't need to merge the layer. You need to separate the reflection and the eyeball. And you cannot merge the reflection with the sclera because you want the reflection to be above the eyeball layer. If you want the reflection to always following the eyeball, then you can just merge it. So you didn't need extra layer for the reflection. Let's see what's again. Oh yes, for the lashes. As you can see, in eyelash, there is like small parts lashes. Now the question is what you want to make the lashes look like when the eyes close. If the case the lashes still stay on the same position as the eyes open, then you doesn't need to separate it. But if you want to make it move like this, then these extra lashes better to be separated. Let me do the quick separation. It doesn't need to be that clean right now, as long as you get the point. So the upper eyelash part will be separated into lashes and small lashes. Okay, for my last tips, I move my drawing files into Photoshop. Since in Medibank on tablet, they didn't have a feature to adjust the pivot. In Photoshop, you can change the picture anchor point, so you can rotate it based on the anchor point position. And I need that feature to show you the last tips. Okay, here what's important. When you want to make the bleed or void filling for the assets, try to maintain the shape to have round edge like this. Try to draw it fully. Let's compare it with the right arm. For the right arm, you can see it feels like it just cut straight and left a pointy corner. Now, when I turn down the body opacity, you can see that actually both left and right have enough bleed. So what's the difference? Let me adjust the arm anchor point, the rotation pivot. When I try to rotate it it looks smooth and normal. Overall, the silhouette is fine. It looks natural. But what if I try to rotate the right arm? Now, when I try to rotate it, you can see it giving a weird shape, like it's broken. You can see the white gap between the body and the arm. Of course, if you didn't need to rotate that much, it looks fine. But we never know, right? It's better to draw the bleed correctly for safety measurements. Let me show you another example. Ignore the ugly rendering because I draw it using my mouse in Photoshop. I just want to make a quick example. As you can see, there is two arms in here, but one I don't really call it wrong. It's more like not really efficient slicing. And one is the better type of slicing. When I try to lower the opacity, you can see for the left sample, all the assets have rounded bleed, both upper arm and lower arm. This small dot in here is just a mark for the anchor point position. So that will be our pivot rotation. And then for the right sample, you can see the slicing is flat and having that kind of hard edge or pointy edge. When you look like this, it feels like there is no difference between both. The silhouette is the same. But let's try to see when we try to rotate the upper arm. For the left one, when you try to rotate it, it feels natural. The silhouette feels okay. When you try to rotate the right sample, you can see the huge difference. Like there is this sliced part between the arms, and we didn't want it to happen. This is a good example on showing you how keeping the bleed have rounded edge will help you have more freedom in animation the asset, especially when rotating it. I think that's enough for the theory. For the next video, you will see me drawing the assets from my sketch that we already prepared before. Goodbye!